Good evening and welcome to another episode of Pegasus Presents. I'm Lauren Stefanelli, Access Coordinator here at Pegasus. And today we're going to be talking about something really fun, and it's fun for people of all ages, especially but not only kids. We're going to be talking about LilySilly puppets. And with me to introduce LilySilly puppets is the puppet master herself, Lily Gershon. Lily, welcome. And thanks for joining us. I think some people may have seen you at the Ithaca Festival, because you were performing there. And other people may have checked you out at other locations where you may be performing. But this is our chance to get to meet you and find out who you are and how you came to be doing this. And I see you got a little friend there.
Yeah.
So maybe you could tell us, Lily, how you got started being a puppeteer.
Sure. I think it was sort of random, but I had some friends that I was staying with that were very hospitable to me, and they had a puppet, and there was a duck. And every time the duck opened its mouth, it went quack. And it was just very sweet and very silly. And when I got home from my travels, I thought it would be so nice if I made them something, these great people. So I went online and I looked up how to make a puppet, and it was a very long, very boring tutorial, but very detailed, and I made a puppet. And once you make one, you start making more, you make a few little videos, and before you know it, you're the puppet lady. And that's what happened.
Well, there's lots of different kinds of puppets. So you've chosen a particular type, right? So
yeah, the easiest to make for me originally were these kinds of puppets. And so this is Karmic Kathy, and she's actually a weather lady. She tells you about your karmic weather, as in how your past actions can affect the different clouds. But she's a mouth puppet, and so she has a mouth. You know, yeah, I'm Kathy. Yeah, with your weather report. Yeah, so that's a mouth puppet. And then as I learned more about puppetry, I realized I could do a lot more with hand puppets, which is a different kind of puppet. And I do have some hand puppets here. And so now I actually work with a number of different kinds of puppets. Some are hand puppets, like this is a little hand puppet.
Okay, so a hand puppet just is the same, but it doesn't have a mouth?
It doesn't have a mouth, yeah. It has hands, and it can clap and hold things and dance.
So you basically, you've got one hand in there, and either the hand can run the mouth or the hand can run two arms.
That's right.
I see.
Yeah, and there's different kinds also. There's another kind of
I never really
puppet.
thought about that before.
Yeah.
But that makes sense.
Yeah, they all have different uses, and maybe if you want someone who's loud and talks a lot, then maybe a mouth puppet is better. But if you want someone who can grab something, then you might want a hand puppet.
I see. And then there's those little thumb puppets too, right?
Yeah, little finger puppets.
Little finger puppets.
And they just look cute. They can't do so much, but that's okay. Yeah.
Okay, and they seem to be all made out of fabric of various types. And how do you come up with the design for a puppet?
Well, what I do is, what makes me feel really good about making them is that they're all made of recycled materials. And so a lot of my puppets are old sweaters, found things. This hair here used to be a scarf. And so I will generally just pick out colors that I like, or something like that, and then I create a shape. And
do you draw it on a piece of paper, your design?
Sometimes I do, but sometimes I don't. Sometimes a lot of my early puppets, I wasn't really planning a specific character. I just thought, well, I'll make a shape. It'll have some ears.
How long ago was it that you made this first puppet?
That was in 2008.
Oh, so you've been doing this for some time.
Yeah, but not professionally for very long. So yeah, I only started doing this professionally a few years ago. So
first it was just a hobby, and then you'd be kind of asked to entertain friends at Christmas or something for a couple minutes.
Exactly.
And then gradually you got better and better and decided you wanted to try a public performance somewhere or a party or something. And then how did you decide to make a business out of this?
Well, I always thought that maybe I could, and I was definitely inspired by other people who were doing puppetry. And I think it just took my friends and family being supportive after I had a job and I was let go from that job. And I thought, well, I could go search for another job, or I could try out being a puppeteer, which sounded kind of dangerous. to do because I didn't know how it would end up, but my friends and family were very supportive, and I said, you could do this, you got this. So I tried it, and it's working out. Yeah. So I also was, I got some help from our community, which is awesome here. One thing was that I was able to get some small funding as a small business from the Alternatives Credit Union, and they have a program for people who want to start a small business. And so they were able to give me a little bit of money to start out. And then once I got going, I also applied for grants through the Community Arts Partnership, who are awesome at helping artists get going and helping them continue their work. So that was really helpful.
Well, so this is the kind of business where you don't have to have a bricks and mortar storefront. It's kind of like your website is sort of your storefront, right?
True.
And your website is?
LilySilly.com.
Okay. and if people go to that website, they can find, you actually do, your business consists of a number of different sorts of activities, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I do a lot of things. So I have a musician, so we have live music for our shows, and I do a number of things, including going to perform at festivals, at events, birthday parties for children, and going into schools, which I really love going into schools. And I've been working with some schools where I might just come in and do a show, but another thing we've done is that we'll have a show, and then the kids after the show are very inspired to make their own puppets. And so I come and I bring all these materials, and I pretty much bring the basics of this sort of puppet, where I have the body, and they pick out the body, and they're all different colors, and then they get to make all the little facial expressions and all the little accessories. And they're already, saw a lot of puppets, so the world's their oyster. They can make whatever they want. And so I really enjoy doing that.
So when kids watch a puppet show, little kids,
Yeah.
Do they ever think the puppets are real?
Yes, they do, especially kids who are around like 3 or 4. Sometimes they get very into it, and sometimes they need to come up to the stage and they try to grab the puppet because they're like, how is this thing moving? What is happening here? And sometimes they get very upset if, let's say I have a puppet witch in one of my shows, and they get so angry at this witch. And we've had a show where they're
ready to lynch the witch?
Yeah, they want to they start grabbing grass and throwing it at the puppets. And I have to have the witch's mother come out and apologize and call the witch out and say, you've been bad. And they won't be satisfied until the witch apologizes for what she's done.
Wow. Yeah. And then how old do kids have to be before they really realize these aren't living beings? This is an entertainment.
It's so different for every child, but I think, once they're
kind of like, is there a Santa Claus sort of thing?
Yeah. It always has some sort of magic, even when they're older, because at first I thought when I was doing puppetry that I needed a stage, so I needed to hide myself in order for the puppet to have the magic. But I learned really quickly that I didn't, that I could sit right in front with a puppet, and they could see my lips moving. They could see that I had the hand in the puppet.
Arm coming out of the end of the puppet.
Yeah, they could see this, and I could, and it didn't change it. They would talk to the puppet. They would look at the puppet. I would disappear as long as the puppet was being a personality. So there's a lot of magic in puppets.
It's funny. It's funny that your name is Lily, and that it's LilySilly, and that we're talking about whether kids think puppets are real. And I guess what made me think about that is that old movie from the 50s with Leslie Caron called Lily, where you've never seen it?
No.
Well, anyway, it's a movie in which this young girl sort of ends up in a circus performance kind of thing, and there's a puppeteer, and she thinks the puppets are real, and she talks to the puppets like they're real people, and she doesn't really understand that there's a person back there who is the one really relating to her, and the whole plot of the movie is about that.
Yeah.
But her name is Lily too.
It's a good name, good choice.
Well, I think it's time for us to take a look at something from one of your puppet shows, and what we have done is we've recorded an entire puppet show. It's called Aunt Irene's Late at Night Show. Is that right? And so we've got a clip of that to play for you to introduce you to the LilySilly Puppet Theater. And so why don't you tell us what we're going to see?
Well, we have a great character. His name is Mr. Blue, and he has a wonderful act where he has a radio. And this radio, he likes to sing along to the radio. He flips through a few channels, but then something happens. The radio goes to a news station that is telling him some very disturbing news.
Oh, all right. So, well, with that, let's take a look at this clip from Aunt Irene's Late at Night show.
Hello. I'm Mr. Blue, and this here's my radio. Yeah, if you're ever feeling blue, a radio's a great friend to have. So, let's turn it on and see what's playing. Let's see here. Great, but let me see what else is on. Let's see here. I don't know if I can sing to this one. Let's see what else. Here we go. Oh, classical. Oh, that's nice. But let's see what else is going on here. Let's see.
Puppet News!
Oh, it's the news channel.
Yes, today in Puppet News, we have amazing news in the world of science. Nowadays, yes, scientists can tell you what lies behind your fuzzy exterior.
Oh,
Yes, today scientists have confirmed that behind every puppet's fuzzy exterior lies one naked human elbow.
Oh, that's the funniest thing I ever heard. It must be a comedy.
This is not a comedy. Yes, in fact, today you can find out for yourself by doing these easy steps.
Oh,
Yes, first lift your left hand. Now place that hand on your belly. Now grab that fuzzy exterior and lift. Yes, now you've seen it for yourself.
I don't know what I saw.
Come on, aren't you curious? If you're not sure what you saw, try it again.
I don't know if I should.
Come on, lift that left hand. Now place it on your belly. Now grab that fuzzy exterior and lift.
Oh, goodness me.
Yes, in fact, science confirms now that behind this elbow lies an entire human being that was always right behind you.
There's nobody behind me.
Well, of course, you can't see him because there is a curtain. Yes, in order to find out for yourself, all you would have to do is lift that curtain.
Oh, no, I couldn't do that.
Come on, you know you're curious. You know you're wondering, is there somebody right behind me? All you have to do is lift that curtain.
Oh my.
Yes, now you know for yourself.
No, for myself. I think there's something wrong with this radio. I'm gonna turn it off.
Now you know you can't turn it off. You can't turn it off.
Oh, it won't turn off.
Come on, what are you gonna do now?
I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Come on, you've got to do something.
I think that's enough radio for now. Aunt Irene!
And we are back. I hope you enjoyed that. And that was a really original performance. It was my favorite one from the piece. I liked it a lot. And so if you want to see the rest of it, you're going to have to see the rest of Aunt Irene's Late at Night show, which will be playing on PEGASYS. You can check it out on our schedule at our PEGASYS website, which I've put up on the screen for you here. You can find out when it's running. But meanwhile, let's talk about your musician, because one thing that's really clear when you watch any section of your show is that your performance is a collaboration between you and your musician, who is basically doing on-the-fly music that completely supports all the action and activity and dialogue of the puppetry. And your musician is Matthew O'Cone, and he's playing the guitar in that segment that we just watched. Tell us a little bit about how you guys work together and develop the music.
Yeah, so Matt is a classically trained guitarist, and he went to Eastman School of Music in Rochester. And so we actually started off with having a duo where I sing and he plays guitar. We have a jazz duo called Lily and Matt.
So this is adult performance.
Yes, and we do weddings and wineries and those sorts of gigs. We sing all old jazz songs. And so kind of puppet shows and songs, you know, are a marriage to last. So we, you know, it was pretty natural. And he actually loves doing the puppet shows. It's really fun for him. He gets to improvise a little. He can play with the music. And so it's a perfect fit. I mean, to have songs, you have to have songs with puppets. They love to sing. And so we just found that that was really fun to do together.
But he goes, you know, he goes through all the different emotional colors as the puppets do their bits. And do you guys have to practice a lot to be able to come up with that?
We do practice.
Or is he just improvising?
He's improvising a lot of the time. I mean, we do practice, absolutely. So there are certain sounds that he's developed, like whenever the witch comes out, she's got this little tune, and they also, a lot of the music comes from jazz songs. So a lot of times we take songs that are some 30s Cole Porter tune, and we change it to fit our puppet show. So Aunt Irene sings a song that is about, I think it was a song sung by Eartha Kitt originally, and it's about being an old-fashioned girl, but we've changed it to being about being a hostess of a show. And so, yeah, so those we just work into the shows, which is really fun to do.
This whole, why don't you show us a couple more puppets out of your bag of tricks here you brought?
Yes.
I'd love to see a few more.
So what we have, I have one here that I think I've always wanted to make living here in Ithaca, and this, hopefully you may recognize him, Mr. Carl Sagan.
Wow,
That's
you got
right.
you got the turtleneck, you got the open jacket, you
He's
got the
got
hair,
little
the patches on the
pads.
sleeve, yep, the big
And
teeth.
That's
and
right.
you got the hair parted in the middle, yep, and
Yeah.
the big eyebrows. You did it, you got him.
Yeah, and it's, you know,
You have a voice to go with it. He's
I
got
do
a
have a voice to
distinctive
go with
voice.
it. Yeah, usually he talks about, well, we'll ask Carl a question, and often we ask him, Carl, how big is the universe?
Does it involve billions and billions?
Oh,
Billions and billions of stars.
how old is the universe, Carl?
Well, the universe is older than it looks, and it's considered by scientists impolite to ask its age. But despite a few absorption lines and a little loosening of the asteroid belt, it looks pretty good, doesn't it?
It's very cute.
We like to have celebrity guests. We also have a Johnny Depp.
Oh,
and,
really?
and Carl Sagan are our big two celebrity guests that sometimes
Carl Sagan and Johnny Depp.
appear on the show. Aunt Irene, who is the hostess of the show, is obsessed with Johnny Depp. So he often plays a role in the show. But
Oh, so she has kind of a crush on him.
she does. It's unhealthy.
And I mean, this puppet just has a head.
Yeah, this was originally part of a show that I was asked to do for the Literary Arts Fest, Spring Rites. And so this was the cat head for the Cheshire Cat. And what I did was we had a show that wove together different literary stories. So we had Alice in Wonderland mixed with the Odyssey, mixed with Moby Dick. And so this was the cat head, and I actually had a body for him that popped up in different places.
Oh,
you
the
know.
cat was separated from his body.
Yeah, but then it's a pretty great cat, so he's made it into other performances as well, often singing in Russian. Yeah.
And this one, you've got a puppet that has a whole body. It has feet.
Yeah, and this guy, I brought him on because this is going to be the star of our next show, which is actually a show that Matt Yeah,
So Matt is writing the puppet show now.
Yes.
So he's moved from just being an accompanist.
He really loves the puppet shows, and he gives me a lot of advice about the puppet shows because he's my biggest viewer.
Right, because you're behind the curtain.
Yeah, I can't see myself. He's got to, give me some advice as the audience. So, so he's written a show. So he does a lot of classical performances and duos and things with violinists. But he often really wanted to have kids be excited about classical guitar the way he was excited about it when he was a kid. And so he's written a show that is all about Spanish classical guitar, highlighting that. And so this character is going to be our main character for our next show called Alfonso's Miniature Orchestra. And this is Alfonso. Yeah.
And he is a hand puppet. See,
He
I
is a
know
hand
that now.
puppet. So because he's going to have to play the guitar, so you have to imagine if he has a guitar, he's going to have to be able to play that, and he's fresh out of the oven. They just finished him, so
he looks like a gingerbread man too.
He might get tweaked, but he is going to be a Spanish boy who grows up with his grandmother, who falls in love with the guitar, but is told that the guitar is not a good enough instrument, that he should play something like the violin or the cello, something better. But then events happen that make the guitar very special to him and to his community. So I'm excited about Alfonso.
Well, so it must be nice to have a writing collaborator now.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to have people to work with, to bounce ideas off of, and I've even had my friends show up and be the voices for different puppets. So in the literary one, I had my friend play the role of Ahab and do a voice for Moby Dick, and another friend to be Jane Austen character. So it's a great way to involve my friends and have a lot of fun, and I think that's what's really awesome about being a puppeteer.
Have them kind of be a child for 10 minutes or so, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're playing
I mean, is
with
there a little
dolls.
bit of that for you? You get to it's work, but it feels a little bit like play, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I wouldn't do it if it wasn't. It's really great to be able to play with things and keep that childlike, that feeling in your life. And it came out of that. It came out of play, for me, and I'm sure for a lot of other people.
So, tell me tell me a little bit about when you go to a school. How does that go?
I love going to schools. I've been going.
I mean, do you go to a specific age of schools? What kind of schools call you in?
Well, right now
for puppet therapy.
For puppet therapy, right now I've been going to schools and working with kids in 2nd and 3rd grade, generally, and they're wonderful. I love 2nd and 3rd graders. They're the best. So usually I come into an art class. That's what I've mostly been doing, is coming into an art class and setting up my stage, and they come in, they know there's something special, there's a guest.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. They've got all the ingredients and stuff and the tables for making puppets, which will follow the performance, right?
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of this puppet, Alfonso, you said, right? We've got another clip that Lily's brought with us to share, which involves a guitar, which involves a Spanish guitar and a Spanish dancer and a guitar. So you can kind of get an idea of what a guitar would look like as a puppet. So let's take a look.
It's ta, 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 see? Oh, música. No. Es ta, 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 ¿sí? Música. Aquí.
So, okay, we're back. I hope you enjoyed that and you got to see a guitar as an actual puppet, a dancing, disobedient kind of little puppet.
Yeah.
And the one theme that was running through the Aunt Irene show, that it's kind of a good open-ended sort of format for a puppet show because you can have any kind of guest you want, right? Magical, not magical, and goofy or talented or pseudo-talented or anything you like, right?
Yeah.
Have you done other puppet shows on other themes?
Yeah, actually, when we first started out, we did a show that was tailored for a theme, which was, I can't remember exactly what the theme was, but it was about world things, world travel, or that sort of thing. And we were doing that for the Community School of Music and Art. And so we had a show called, it's called Yes Around the World. And that show involved a puppet who was traveling in a hot air balloon, and he would land in different countries and learn to say yes in that country's language. And that comes out of the fact that I really love languages. I grew up speaking Russian. It was my first language, and English was my second language, and then I've just enjoyed languages. So one of the things I like to do in my jazz duo, which I also like to bring to the puppet show, is having songs in different languages. So we had him land in Spain and France and Germany and Kenya and Brazil. So
wow. I think there's a little clip of that on your website, isn't there? Well, speaking of your website, I think we're right near the end of the show. So maybe you could tell our audience what, if they go to your website, they can learn. Mm-hmm.
Yes, so if you go to LilySilly.com, you will find when our next shows are, our workshops. You can see clips from our shows. You can see just photos of the different puppets that I have. And you can even purchase a puppet if you want. But mostly you'll see a lot of great images and really silly videos.
Well, thank you so much for joining me and giving us a little bit behind the scenes of LilySilly Puppet Theater, LilySilly Puppets.
LilySilly Puppets.
And if you look on our website, you'll be able to see the schedule when Aunt Irene's Late at Night show will be on PEGASYS, and you can see the entire thing, including the segments that we showed from beginning to end. I hope you'll check that out. And meanwhile, thank you so much for joining us. And thanks all of you for being with us. Good night.